And we are live. So, welcome to episode 201 of An American Werewolf in New Jersey. I am the American Werewolf. In the house tonight, we've got Eric from Hey Internet Eric here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, man. We've got John K. Alvarez, Rosemary's other next-door neighbor. Much nicer than Ruth Gordon and, those other people. Which is probably why she never saw him. And we've got, for the first time in quite a while, over there in the UK, we've got Morgan Scorpion.
How do you do?
Yeah, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Absolutely.
Did we see you at all? I think, we haven't seen you since Top 5 Vampires. So
That's right. Top 5 vampires.
Yeah, it's been a while. So it's good to see you again. And
he's really tired of seeing Eric and I. So it's
So I need some variety. And then if things really take a twist, I get stuck with Rod or Ryan. So
there you
go. That's never going to work. So this is the third of five movies that we're going to be doing for the Halloween season in terms of witchcraft. And the first one we covered was You Won't Be Alone. The second one was, it was loosely related. It was Daffy Duck's Quackbusters, but it was episode 200, and we had a lot of fun.
There was a witch in it.
Yeah, we almost had 3 hours for that one. So,
ooh, yeah.
Yeah.
Must have been a hit.
We just had fun hanging out. It's 200 episodes.
There was drinking involved.
Yeah, there was drinking involved. But this film that we have here is easily one of the most, it's one of the best horror movies, I think, of all time. 5 years before The Exorcist. And I think of equal relevance. I can't think of how many movies it has influenced that we have seen ourselves and said, wow, there's a lot of Rosemary's Baby in that. Eric, I think seeing it for the first time, actually. Yep. So I'm curious as to what his thoughts are. But you look at movies like Hereditary, clearly very influenced by Rosemary's Baby. Wow, Julia, you are really bright. You're fine without the light. You're good. Movies like we've got The Devil's Advocate, films like that. I think that's obviously influenced by this. The Omen, I think a little bit, and part of that is just Hangover. And the movie we're about to do next week, which I think is a carbon copy of it, Lords of Salem. Which is pretty much Rosemary's Baby in a modern setting, if you ask me. In a sense. But unlike The Exorcist, it's much more low key, and I think what makes this such a great fucking movie is that everyone is so absolutely fucking evil. But they're absolutely evil by doing almost nothing. There's no big spectacle here. There's no spinning heads and, there's no possession and, holy water flying everywhere and vomit and, all these, horrible profanities and blasphemies. It's just people coming to your apartment.
Well, what have we been saying for like the last couple of months? Less is more.
Yeah, or like John said, and we were talking about this, doing nothing and making it look interesting. Which is what everybody does here. When you talk about like Ruth Gordon, Mia Farrow, Cassiovettis. Cassiovettis is just the most evil motherfucker I think I've ever seen in this. And he's just, if you look literally at his actions, he just kind of comes off as like a jerk. But when the underlying story is such that you're just like, holy shit. And I think one of the other things that makes this such a frightening movie is that it's somewhat plausible. Because it's just like the worst case of All right, I'll tell you what. We'll get into that in a little bit. We're talking about Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. Are you guys ready to go?
Yeah, buddy.
Boogie woogie.
Definitely.
Here we go. Okay, let's start off with Julia for a little change. Ladies first, and let's get your initial thoughts on the movie without giving too much away. What did you? I know you're probably you've seen it many times. What
yes.
are your thoughts? What are your thoughts of this film? Relevance? What did you think? If you saw it this time, or if you're just working off, how many times you've seen it? Tell us what's on your mind.
Well, I haven't seen it recently. I haven't seen it for a few years now. I must have seen it 5 or 6 times, maybe 7.
Okay.
It is one of, I think it's one of the best. It's not one of my favorites, but I'd start off by disputing that nothing happens. I think a lot happens here.
Mhm.
How much plot spoilage are we allowed?
It's 1968. It's 55 years. If they haven't seen it by now,
Yeah.
it's not
Go for
our
it.
fault.
A lot of people haven't seen it though, which is I wouldn't want to
It's a
ruin
shame.
it for them. But that's they put it this way. I would strongly dispute that nothing happens. In fact, everything happens. We've got.
I may have misspoken. I may have
basically-
misspoken, or I worded it poorly. Go ahead.
Well, we've got to know about Guy's raging ambition, Rosemary's pride in him. So we're getting to know the people.
Mhm.
We are starting to find something a bit sinister going on. We've got the death of a woman who jumps out of the window, and we've got the Tannis route, and all these little sort of seeds of later developments are being sown. And then we have Rosemary's dream, which this isn't a dream, this is really happening. And then we have her gradually starting to suspect that something is wrong. We have her unnatural, or yeah, I would say it's an unnatural pregnancy because most women don't experience excruciating pain in the earlier months. And
Mhm.
and like I said, there's her friend who dies. The missing
Touch.
glove.
Yeah.
It's full of things happening. It's just not very dramatic things.
Mhm.
It's you get this atmospheric build up.
Mhm.
All the little oddities start mounting up to a big mountain of it. And of
Mhm.
course, at the end, the revelation that she really is the mother of the devil, or the devil's child.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. Fair enough.
I would like to say that the revelation when she sees the goat to the cradle, one of the most horrifying moments in cinema. What have you done to its eyes?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Okay, John, what do you got?
This movie is so subtle, so horror and subtlety in it. I had an argument with a writing teacher from my days with Stockton about this movie. Not so much an argument. I was too naive at the time because I first saw it when I was roughly about 18, but that was about 10 years or so, 15 years or so after it was released. And it was on television, and it was a guy named Phil Klukoff who taught English and we were talking about it as a writing prospect. And his attitude said the greatest thing about this movie is everything can easily be dismissed. Rosemary could easily be considered a paranoid person.
Right.
Mhm.
Everything, or she's having, a problem, or anything could easily be pushed aside. It's not until the very end that when you realized, oh shit, she's not lying. even if like, when like after they make love that night and Castavetes is saying, yeah, we were getting a little rough. And she was like, really? I didn't think, no. It was kind of reminding me of like Gaslight,
Yeah.
because it was so there was that sense of paranoia.
Yeah.
And saying, oh, is she really, is she really this or really isn't? One of my favorite lines in this whole movie, and it's again goes to the subtlety, is when, not to give too much away, by just saying when Castavetes gets the job, the acting job that he first didn't get.
Right.
And all of a sudden they call him up and say, no, it's yours now. But the other guy got hurt without giving it away, because I don't know how you have this set up, Mike.
No,
he turned
John,
around,
it's been 55 years.
I'm more worried about the way you have it. The guy, the actor who got the part was blind. All of a sudden became blind.
Right.
And Castavetes very subtly and walks out of shot, goes, that's one hell of a way to get a part.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at it at the very end, you're like, holy fuck, of course it is.
Yeah.
The witches and the devils were all involved in getting the part if he gave up his wife. Yeah. I mean, it was all that, and it was so subtly laced that by the time, it's like the incense that's in the necklace. It was a subtle smell, but it smelled wrong.
Yeah.
And that's a perfect description of this movie till you get to the end.
Okay. Eric, what do you got? First time viewer, Eric here, seeing it for the first time. Let us know your thoughts.
I don't know why it took me so long to see this. You guys all know that I'm not just into horror, I'm into film in general. And it's also my first time seeing a Polanski film. I knew of its place in cinema. I knew the basic plot. I knew it was Mia Farrow giving birth to the Antichrist. I didn't know anything else that was involved. I'd seen a couple clips. I'd seen the "What did you do to its eyes" clip. I saw, this is not a dream. This is really happening. Parts of that. I figured, and I heard and had other people say that it's either really, really good and scary, or people say that they couldn't get into it. I think Ryan said he couldn't get into it. A lot of people say the burn was too slow for them. I went into it knowing that it's a horror movie from 1968, and they're filmed a hell of a lot different than the 70s and the 80s. I couldn't stop watching this film. It's a slow burn, yeah, but the thing is, slow burns can either be boring or not. I couldn't stop watching this because of everything that was happening. This happened, which led to this, which led to this. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And in retrospect, seeing, what that all meant. Great performances. It makes me wonder how long was Rosemary's husband involved in this? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And they have a great relationship in the very beginning. They're like newlyweds. She's always slapping her on the ass, when they're leaving the room to everything. They're still so madly in love. And then just how creepy the atmosphere is in this, because there's not flashy lights. There's not, creepy mist and fog and stuff like that. It's just people acting. Yeah. Like you and I, when we did Midnight Mass, some of the most powerful scenes is when it was just two people sitting in a chair talking to each other. Right. And that's what this movie was based on for me. It was the acting. And honestly, once, shit started to slowly hit the fan, I couldn't wait to see where this was going to end up, even though I'd seen the end part with the, the bassinet and everything. I still couldn't wait to see where this was going to go for me.
This is only the second time I've seen this. And I remember the first time I saw it was within the past 5 years. So I'm a latecomer to this as well. Just never got around to it. And I remember the first time I watched it, it was just, I could feel the dread like coming through I literally remember this. I mean, this is God's honest truth. I remember I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, this is just, it's fucking wrong. And I could feel the vibe. It was the bad vibe.
Yeah.
And I was like, I've never watched a movie like this. And I'm a Polanski fan. It's fucked up person, but fucked up people make the best art. And, here's the proof. This was the second time I watched it, and I didn't have that reaction this time because I understood what was going to happen for the most part, although it had been about 5 years since I've seen it, the first time. There's just an overwhelming, and I was angry at just everybody because you could see how she's being maneuvered and how passive she is. She just lets everybody just lead her by the nose. But there's also like I said, perhaps I misspoke when I said nothing happens. It's that there's not a great deal of spectacle, like The Exorcist. There's not destroyed rooms and statues of demons and Linda Blair, with her face all scarred up
Right.
or whatever, scratched up, and flying soup, pea soup flying out. There's none of that. It's just this low key kind of performance.
Subtlety.
That lets you know from the get go that something is wrong here, and it starts immediately. And the basic premise is this new couple move into this apartment complex in New York City that is essentially the haven for a satanic witches coven. And they want a young woman who can supply them with a child, which you at first think is perhaps, that they're going to use for sacrifices or for rituals or things like that. But what they actually want is to have the devil impregnate this woman to give birth to the Antichrist. And I hate these types of movies at the same time, but this is just, I think, the best version of it. I hate those types of movies where the whole world is against you. And that's basically what's happened here. Everybody is in on it. Everybody. And there are a few people here and there interspersed that pop in for 5 minutes here and there that you hope, might intercede, and they're taken off the board.
Yeah.
This coven will not allow anyone to interfere in what their plans are. And it reminded me of my old college professor who told me when we read Othello that it was so awful that you would say to yourself, someone has to intervene here. Someone, like, we can't let this happen. And unlike The Exorcist, there is no one to intervene here. It's much, and I heard someone describe this make this comparison before. It is colder and it is more cruel than The Exorcist.
That was another thing that was really, pumping me up for this movie, because like I said, I knew how it ended. You know what I mean? But like you said, anyone who tries to intervene or is seen as like in the way of something, like the one actor who he just happened to go blind, right? Or the one doctor that was going to interfere and oh no, he's in a coma and now he's dead. You know what I mean? So I'm just wondering, and then now I'm thinking about the young lady who was living with the older couple. She just happens to take her life a night that they're gone, right? That's what I say. This has some good rewatch value now that I know there's this little stuff sprinkled here and there, and I can't wait. I mean, it's going to be, this isn't something I'm going to watch like once a month, or I'm going to wait like a year or so like that. But now I can go back to it and put like the pieces together, because you don't know who's involved. Like when she's at the phone booth and you got that older gentleman standing behind her, but he's facing the other way. Is he just listening, or is he just the dude with the stogie getting ready to make a phone call? Charles Grodin. I couldn't believe Charles Grodin was in this fucking movie.
He's a son of a bitch.
He's keeping her, like, I know I'm jumping ahead, but keeping her calm. You lay down, relax, turns the light off, and motherfucker, he opens the door and in they walk.
Right. And that's why just a slight disagreement with what you said, Mike. It's not the whole world was against her. To me, it was everybody in her world was against her. That's what adds to the paranoid, like the guy smoking the cigar, waiting for the phone booth. By the way, how cool was it to see a phone booth? But it was, but to see, them, and then because in your head, was he exactly like Eric? Was he in it? Is he involved, or is he? I mean, it heightens the audience's paranoia as well.
Yes.
So when the payoff comes at the end, that's what makes the payoff work. That's what makes it so good, because, you're just as paranoid as Rosemary, or at least at a level of paranoia. I think that's why people don't get it, because they were expecting the action and, like The Omen, when all of a sudden the nanny walks in and the music goes boom and and it wasn't. It was just telling you a story that you would see every damn day. Just like the very first time they were having dinner and the guy was telling the stories. It's all it was just a simple story being told, and it was happening right in front of you.
I mean, when Hutch is telling the story in the beginning of what happened at the Branford, and he starts telling about the Trench Sisters. You know,
Mhm.
it's setting you up. He's telling the story about witchcraft, and you know, they ate children. You know, and you know, Adrian Mercado, you know, he believed he actually could conjure the devil, and they did rituals with dead babies. It's just like this passing conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
You know, you never see anything. There's no gore to speak of.
Mm-mm.
You know, but it's just so fucking effective, and it just grabs you, and it doesn't let you go. And Mia Farrow is just so fucking great as the little mouse.
Yeah.
You know, she just plays this little mouse, you know, who's just
Mhm.
helpless the
Yeah.
entire time. Julia,
Yeah.
do you anything? Are we on track, or have we? Does this sound about right? Julia, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you, darling. What's the
Oh,
question?
anything
What?
you want to add?
No, actually.
Mike was wondering if we wandered off the path.
This is
Go
like
on,
the
Carl.
Fifth Element, you know,
sounds like
like
you're
a
on path
Ruby.
to me.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm trying to think. You know, the Cassavette, the Castavets. You know, because I think some of the themes in this, you know, we got paranoia, Christianity. These people out the Castavets, they hate Christianity. You know, it's a hypocritical religion, and you know the church, and you know, because I think the Pope is coming to New York, and so you know the Pope is just like this ultimate, you know, hypocrite, you know, and all these other things, you know, breadcrumbs
What they
everywhere.
were, I think that what they were doing with that conversation was fishing to find Rosemary's attitude to religion. It's important that they mentioned that the woman that they wanted had to be a Catholic and not a virgin.
Right.
And we know that Rosemary is a Catholic, but she doesn't practice.
Right.
She doesn't have the rosary. We don't see her praying. She doesn't go to church. She doesn't have any friends who are priests. So, you know, she's Catholic by birth, but not by practice. She doesn't have any of the religious protections that one would expect a Catholic to have.
Very much like the family in Hereditary. You know, very secular. You know, an artist and a psychiatrist. You know, they did. And I remember when we did Hereditary, Bill said, you know, if we ever needed Peter Cushing with a bag of sharp sticks, that would have been the movie. And if anybody ever needed Peter Cushing, it was Mia Farrow. You know, because I remember in the Horror of Dracula, he had this big cross that was like a foot high, you know, and he hung it around that little girl, and it was like bigger than she was. But you're right. I mean, she has no defense. She has, you know, no means to defend herself whatsoever, and she is just led along this maze, you know, with these overbearing people. You know, Ruth Gordon, and I can't remember who played the husband. You know, they get her to switch her
doctor.
OBGYN, you know, the pediatrician. She just goes along with everything. And just that quickly, what really scared me, and well, not this time scared necessarily, but it was just really alarming how fast they flipped Cassavetes.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You never see it. You never see it. It's just he goes over there one time, and then when he comes back, he's never the same again.
And that's what I noticed, because if you remember the first time they had dinner, he couldn't wait to get the fuck out of there. You know what I mean? Why did you eat 2 pieces of cake? Because it was a nice thing to do. And then he was making fun of them. Walk on the walk home. But you know, the next time he went over and he said, "No, I can go by myself." You know what I mean? He went to go hear more stories. You know, that's what it was, more stories. And then that's when the switch was flipped. He became like a grumpy asshole. You know what I mean? Yelling at her at the kitchen table because she won't eat the chocolate mousse or whatever it is. You know, he's basically saying, well, if you don't like it, don't fucking eat it, type of thing. And she's saying, you know, I don't like it. Oh, you're wrong. And it was just him on edge and just bickering. Just for the sake of doing it.
The deal was made with the devil at that time.
Right.
Without actually making it the devil, you know, you have to get her to do this. And if she was going away from it, which is the stuff she used to admire, or he used to admire. No, you gotta, because he knew he was getting something out of it, which was, for lack of a better term, a career that he always wanted.
Exactly,
Yeah.
because they always made sure, oh, I've seen him before. He's an actor.
Yeah.
Oh, no movies, just some television and some light radio. So he's
Yeah.
never had the big break.
Right.
Yeah.
And the
all of a
fact that
sudden he got a
now
big break.
he's the fucker's sacrificing his wife, like talking about him just makes me so angry. You know what I mean? Because he seems so loving in the beginning of this movie.
Yeah, and his seduction, I was always wondering what it was
He's
like.
loving when he gets what he wants, basically.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, somebody said, I saw this, I think I did a quick wiki search, and someone said it was 68, and so the women's lib movement was also one of the themes necessarily, where, you've got this one woman who's just being badgered by everybody. So when we get to the end, I put it, she's got that knife, and I was thinking, would it have been better? Because we're just kind of talking at different points. We don't have to go through it chronologically. Would it have been better if she just started stabbing people? It's just like some fucking knife attack, like something, but she's just,
But
can't.
If she did that, they could have easily turned around and said, "Oh my God, she went crazy," and they get her arrested, and she's in jail, and they'll get the baby anyway. I mean, that's a different way of telling the.
That's what Ralph Bellamy tells her when they bring her into Charles, when they come into Charles Grodin's office. They're like, if you make a scene, we're going to tell him you're crazy and you're going to end up in a mental hospital. And I'm going to sign you over right now, and that'll be it.
Exactly.
But understanding that they were actually all Satanists, maybe it wouldn't have been, maybe a mental hospital is like a nice little vacation. As opposed to being out of that place.
Yeah, but if he would have signed her in the Satanist sanatorium.
Well, not if he had been stabbed at the end of the movie.
Yeah, he was stabbed at
The thing is, they need her to look after the baby.
Yeah.
And that was the irony of it.
And she even goes along with that in the end.
Yeah.
She even goes along with that.
Yeah.
Her maternal instincts are extremely strong, though.
Yeah,
she's before the baby's even born. She's talking to it and saying, "Don't worry, Andy, I'll protect you." So
she's horrified until she hears the baby crying.
And she apologized for not being able to protect them.
Yeah,
that one scene broke me all the time.
She's in there and she's horrified and she's like, "Everybody, get the fuck away from me!" And she sees it and she falls back into the chair and then she hears it crying. And you're right, Julia. The maternal instinct kicks in.
You're rocking him too hard.
Yeah, you're rocking him too hard.
Too hard. Yeah,
because it's her son. That's the fucked up thing about this.
Yeah,
it's her fucking son, and you're just like, holy shit.
It's like this. How many times, whether it's your own personal life or you've heard other people who have sons or daughters or siblings that have done cruel things, you know what I mean, or bad things, but you're like, it's my brother, it's my kid, I still gotta love it, you know what I mean? So that's what I took as she's just like, for lack of a better term, it's the son of the devil, but it's still my son too.
It's my son too.
I should mention that this is currently streaming, I think, on Amazon Prime. I'm not sure everybody else got it. I have a Blu-ray that I bought when I was overseas because I saw it and I'm like, I have to own this. I have to own it. And like Eric, it's not something I'm going to watch again anytime soon, but it is a piece of essential cinema as far as I'm concerned. It transcends horror into that cinematic, realm. But I mean, it's just she's just doomed. She's just doomed, and that's like the whole character of Terry that she meets in the laundry room. And, she starts telling this story about how when they first brought her in, she's like, I was just on the streets. So you get the idea that maybe she's been prostituting or doing drugs. She's homeless, doing what she has to do to survive. And she starts telling the story about at first I thought maybe they were just into some kind of weird sex thing. So there's like all these hints there, so you don't know if she's telling the truth about that and they are into some weird sex thing and she's just covering it up, or because she's not a virgin, and next thing I guess they find a more suitable candidate in Rosemary, and next thing Terry's gone out of a window.
Yeah, because the older lady, the neighbor, she kind of she forces her way in all the
Yeah,
time, but
Ruth
she's
Gordon,
always she's always asking the required questions. Do you have any
Mhm.
children? Do you plan on having any children? Oh no,
Mhm.
we plan on having 3. And then that's when she's like, okay, because the next time
Yeah.
she barges in with her best friend,
Yeah.
and it's not just to hang out; they literally sit down and start knitting. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like
yeah,
they're
I
at
remember.
home. They're
Yeah,
at home. They're that
Exactly.
comfortable,
Mhm.
that confident, knowing that this is going to work.
Mhm.
And it's just little stuff like, again, you're putting 2 and 2 together after you watch the film.
yeah,
And that's what that like I knew the old couple was involved, you know what I mean, from the
Mhm.
get-go, when the suicide happened.
Right.
But the fact that her and her best friend, they're just sitting there knitting,
Mhm.
like it's Sunday, you know what I mean? It's like their
Yeah.
own apartment.
Yeah.
I remember once I used to I ran this department and had some people underneath me, and I was always suspicious of dumb ideas, let's say, or bad
Mhm.
ideas when people started to talk too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And that's what everybody was just constantly doing. Like they were just kind
Yeah.
of running her over with their
Mhm.
words,
Mhm.
and like she can't get a chance to reply because either they're over talking her or Cassiavetti speaks for both of them,
Mhm.
and so she never gets a chance to voice it. She has no
Right.
power.
Right.
So I could see kind of the women's movement, being part of this because she is the most disempowered woman, maybe
Yeah.
since
And
I don't know what.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
What's
But I
quite
mean,
interesting about is the contrast here is with her hairstyle. When she has
Mhm.
it cut very short, is that this hairstyle was considered incredibly radical at the time.
Right.
It
okay,
was about the shortest haircut that women had ever had,
Mhm.
unless you had your head shaved in some prison
Mhm.
or camp or other. And so it was seen as a liberated hairstyle, as you're
Mhm.
liberated from the old style norms, the old roles. But
Mhm.
in Rosemary's case,
Mhm.
know, it's the exact opposite of what she is in this instance.
she
Yeah.
becomes
And
a prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
that
Mhm.
hairstyle was incredibly radical at the time, and a lot of people were shocked, and a lot
Mhm.
of people were talking about it. It was Vidal Sassoon. He was the big hairdresser of the day that everyone was
Mhm.
talking about. So I'm
Mhm.
actually old enough to remember the
And you
60s.
had models like Twiggy who had their hair cut short and that pixie-esque
Mm,
thing. It
I
was
remember
funny.
Twiggy.
And ironically, or actually matter of factly, when she got it done, her husband hated it.
Everyone hated it. Yeah.
Hated
And
it.
everybody
Yeah,
hated it
yeah,
because
and they
she
like
was
told
yeah.
her
trying to
to her
speak her
face.
independence. Yeah. And she was trying to speak her independence just with a simple act. Oh, God, why'd you do that?
They
Mm-hmm.
just shut her down.
Yeah.
They just
Yep.
shut her
That's why
down.
I
Yeah,
always felt I can't remember the woman's name who went out the window.
Terry.
But I
Terry.
remember thinking, I always thought she realized what was going on and she did commit suicide. And that's why they had
Yeah.
to
Mm.
run
Oh,
real
yeah.
quick.
Okay.
Oh, I think that was a
Again,
suicide, all right.
yeah,
Yeah.
because Ruth Gordon and all them didn't meet her yet, and all of a sudden they met her outside, and the next day they're knocking on the door. They need to get another
Candidate.
vessel, for lack of a better
Yeah,
term.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's the whole again. I think I can't remember if John or Eric was bringing it up. The chocolate mousse.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't like this. It's got a chalky aftertaste.
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm.
Cassavetes just starts reaming into her. Because now he's flipped.
Yep.
About if you don't want to eat it, don't eat it. Fine. Blah, 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 blah. And she's like, all right, I'll fucking eat it. Jesus Christ. And
Mm.
there are some dream sequences in there that were
Yeah. I
on the
wasn't.
creepy side, man.
Yeah.
Anybody want to talk about
Well,
those?
I first off, I love how basically she told him to go fuck himself in her own way after he left the room, and she just dumped it in her
Yeah.
her
Oh yeah,
napkin
the
or whatever.
napkin, yeah.
I love that.
Very
I
childlike act, though. It's a very childish act,
Mhm.
really.
but
It's
I
what
still
children
liked it
do.
how she was kind of sticking up, for herself. She's like, no, I'm not going to eat this crap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
I wasn't expecting any dream sequences, and it was I knew there was a rape scene with Satan, but I wasn't expecting the weird shit on the boat. And
Mhm.
she's imagining it's
Mhm.
her husband pulling her pants off, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
On the boat and stuff like that. And she's, suddenly she's nude, and then she looks down, she's in a bathing suit, she's around all these strangers. And
Mhm.
there was one that I didn't understand where she was talking to nuns. That's the one I didn't
Mhm.
really understand.
Oh yeah, yeah. And
Mhm.
she did something that got something
I think
shut
they were
down.
just emphasizing her Catholicism.
Yeah,
So,
that's
Okay.
that's I took it as too.
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
They're the
This
people
is.
who taught her.
I should mention that this is based on a book
It's
that was written
possible
by
that
Ira
she was
Levin.
an interpretation that the Satanists were wearing black robes or something.
Mm.
It's
Mm-hmm.
So
possible.
maybe that's what I think. What we're getting is she's having an actual dream because she's half asleep, but she's
Mhm.
not fully asleep. So we get the dream that she's having, which is the weird one on the boat with the
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Jackie Onassis or something. I can't remember the
Yeah.
details, but there's some celebrity there, and
Mm-hmm.
and it's mingling in, and then suddenly, oh my God, she's wide awake
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
because this
because she
awful thing is
doesn't eat
happening
all
to her.
of the she doesn't
Doesn't
eat
eat all the
all of the
moose.
moose.
Yeah,
Mhm.
So Cassiopetes is like she's awake. No, she's just, but she is half awake.
Mhm.
You know, and is sort of almost having like a sort of outer body experience. You know, with this
Mhm.
rape that's happening, which is actually pretty fucking creepy. But what was worse, I found because you see the eyes, and the sort of face of the devil.
Mm-hmm.
Was the next morning where Cassiopetes takes the fucking blame for it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Oh.
he's just like she's like, you did it when I was past. He's like, well, I didn't
Mhm.
want to miss baby night,
Yeah.
and you're
Yeah.
just like, holy shit! Like
Yep.
I've
And
never
she's
spent
got slices down her
Oh, yeah.
side, and he says, "Don't worry,
Yeah.
I cut my fingers now. I cut my
It was
fingernails
almost
now."
like necrophilia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he
yeah.
acted like he was into it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and he sat there and like I don't have any real experience with Cassiopetes.
Yeah.
He's not, I wasn't a Cassiopetes fan. I know some people are like Cassiopetes fanatics. I
Yeah, I
don't know
just knew
anything
the
about
name.
him one way or the other. I will say this. Everybody here, including him, did a hell of a job because they were
Mhm.
completely believable as just these
Oh, yeah.
evil, demonic sort of witches. So I mean,
Mhm.
he played it fucking great. I mean, he was just I still remember that lesson from Rod. If you can't stand him, that means he's doing his job.
Exactly.
And it was completely believable. That wasn't. It was Cassiopetes,
Yeah.
but I was like, "You fucking Cassiopetes, you bastard,"
Cassiopetes is that type of actor. He'll play when he has to play the hero. He does it very well, but he's not afraid to do the darker version of humanity. If you
I
ever
can't
saw
see anything
Dirty
darker than
Dozens,
this.
he was in that movie.
Oh, that's right. He is in the
Yeah.
Dirty Dozen. Yeah.
He does an interpretation of
Is he the rapist?
no, in the Dirty Dozen, he's a guy who refuses to shave, and that's when they start calling the Dirty Dozen. He's the
Oh,
guy,
that's right. Yeah. No,
He's-
because I mean,
he's
there's
that-
one guy who's in there for multiple rapes, and I thought it was
Telly
Cassiopetes.
Savalas.
Was
That
that? Oh,
was
it's Telly
Telly
Savalas.
Savalas, yeah.
Telly Savalas. Okay.
But the point about it was Cassavetes would do these very big money-making movies, for lack of a better term, and then go do these independent films or supply a theater company that he had.
Yeah.
He used to do a lot of that stuff. If you ever saw the movie in the
Scorsese is a big fan.
Yeah. If you ever saw the movie in the 1980s, early 80s called Gloria, and it was a
I've heard of
woman.
it. I didn't see it.
Yeah.
Well, there's about a
Cassavetes
woman,
is the first one who did that.
who
That was his
looks
wife.
after it.
Yeah, he looks after a child that saw a witness a thing, and she's protecting her with a handgun. Cassavetes, that was Cassavetes' wife, and he wrote and
Tina
directed.
Rowlands. Yeah,
They
Tina
did like
Rowlands.
guerrilla style movie making where if they were on a subway, they would let the subway clear like for the next train and say, all right, get the shot, and then go. He used to do a lot of that stuff, but he was that committed in doing the roles. That was the first reason why I went and saw Rosemary's Baby when I did, because as an actor, I started getting into Cassavetes, and you wanted to punch him. You did. You wanted to punch this character, and it was just the way he played it. Oh,
I got a question about his character in this. Once there's the big reveal, she walks in and you got all the Satanists and everything like that, and they're all just standing there looking at her. Was he the one in the doorway with his hand to his face covered, like with regret?
Yeah, he was ashamed. He was ashamed.
He was ashamed.
Well, I think it's kind of dawning on him that he's in deep shit now.
Yeah.
It really is, because she hates him, and her son is the Antichrist.
Yeah.
And he's just the he's just a pimp, basically.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
just a pimp.
And he's got to eat
And,
more of that moose.
You know, he's in for a really hard time.
well, if
At
you
the
think
very
about it,
least, he's going to be He's going to be treated with scorn, contempt. He's going to be
Mhm.
overlooked. You know, it's like your wishes don't count. You know,
well,
And
that's what I was,
he's
I was
told
saying.
his
He got what
goal.
shit.
he's got.
I'm glad.
Yeah, he got what he wanted. He got his movie role. They don't need him anymore because they
No.
have Rosemary to care for this baby. They can
Mhm.
just brush him aside. You know what I mean? If he
Yeah.
air quotes dies tomorrow, oh whoop de doo. You
Whoops.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
He died
They-
as such a good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can see. I mean, as good as Cassiopetes was, Mia Farrow right there
Oh,
with
God,
him playing the polar opposite. There's that segment in the movie where, like, they're making her sick,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
like her face is like white,
Yes.
like chalk,
Yeah.
chalk, like they're making her drink those drinks. And they've got that stinking charm around her neck.
The pills. She's on some pills.
She's got pills, and she's seeing
Smoothie.
Ralph Bellamy, who's this OBGYN who just lies to her. Nothing's wrong, and I don't want you talking to anybody. I don't want you reading any books. I don't want you, and she just goes along with everything. But she's just she's so convincing.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Oh,
so
God,
convincing. Like, it's just like she's Rosemary. You're like, fuck, man. This woman, it never occurs to her to stand up.
Yeah.
Until it's much too late.
Yeah. When
It's
she
much too
realizes how far she's into the trap,
late. Yeah,
she
and
can't turn around.
yeah, because we finally Hutch dies, her friend. And it seems like every time something happens, they're right there on top of it to monitor it, and if it's not acceptable, then it has to go. They do it with the actor. They do it with Hutch. He can't find his glove. That lets you know right there they've got something that belongs to him. And something's going to happen to Hutch, and then he sends her the book after and like immediately, like she shows up at the door or something. Ruth Gordon shows up at the door. Oh, you've got a book. What is it? And she's like feeling it. Because she just comes up as this nosy neighbor, but she's not. She's the head groomer. For this fucking witches coven, and you're just like, this is awful. It's just awful to watch, but you can't not watch it.
Yeah,
it's like a train wreck.
Yeah, she comes off as a nosy neighbor, but she's the one sent. She is the one that is sent out to get like any information. And report back. That's why she's
there several times a day.
Yeah. She's so forceful. She forces her way in, and she just, like I said, when her and her friend, they just sit down and start knitting. It's just what you would think is bullshit questioning, but she's asking everything now when you realize it for a purpose to report back.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely.
She manages to start to push back a little bit, and I remember the first time I watched it, you think that. Because she throws the party. She throws the party, and none of the people from the building are invited. It's all of her. Because she had like that was something I remember this time watching it. I'm like, where are her friends? Like, where are her girlfriends? Where are her friends? This is New York City. How do you not know anybody? This kind of thing. And she manages to say, I'm throwing this party, and none of these people, because Cassiopetes automatically wants to invite. Everybody from the building. And she's like, no. And all of her friends are going to look at her and like, what the fuck is going on with you? You look awful. And she starts crying. And like, remember Cassiopetes tries to push into the girl talk that they're having in the kitchen. And they're like, no, like, come back. We're talking, like, go away.
She's having her period. Leave us alone. Or something like that. Boom.
Yeah, something like that. Leave us the fuck alone. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But
absolutely,
to no avail.
Actually, one of my favorite scenes is after the party in Cassavetes is trashing them. And that when they were saying they're trying to help, they're saying this isn't right, and these dumb bitches, and you're not calling them like dumb women. I mean, he's going right for the lowest for 1968, the lowest thing he can get away with on a movie, trashing them. And it was just like, it just all of a sudden became not just angry, but it was almost violent.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Like, how dare you take their advice?
he's threatened. You know, because
Mhm.
like his status is in jeopardy. You
Exactly.
know, and who knows at this point, maybe his life, like if he
Mhm.
falls short, you know, this isn't a
True.
very forgiving group, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
But it's funny because it never occurs to him, I think, until the very end that he sold his soul.
Mhm.
Right. Oh, I don't think so either.
I think at the very end he kind of realizes that he's like it's over with, you know, he's accomplished
Yeah.
it, and he's like, oh Jesus, I don't have,
Yeah.
you know, I've just lost my soul. You
Yeah,
know, I
at
just
what
literally
cost?
sold my soul to the devil, you know, for a
Mhm.
fucking acting part.
Yep.
You know, if you remember that movie, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Where, they pick up the black guy Tommy, and
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh Lord, Tommy, please tell me you didn't sell your everlasting soul to the devil for some guitar lessons." He's like, "Well, I wasn't using it."
Yeah. Wasn't using it.
I love that movie.
It's just a
And
great movie, but
what's the first thing when he gets done playing with George Clooney? Well, I don't know if you have a soul, but man, you sold something.
yeah.
But
Oh
it's
God.
but now also one thing on a side note, because you could tell it was 1968 when they did this movie. At the end of the party, if you go back and look at it, they got these beautiful wooden floors, and there's all these cigarette butts on it. It's
Yeah,
like a good 30.
Mhm.
I started laughing out loud. I'm like, I got to be old enough to notice that now because I wouldn't have in the beginning. But the whole concept of it was a 60s party. We're throwing shit on the floor. It's like, damn. They
oh
don't,
man.
because
Man.
they redid this movie in 2014.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
with
they had
Zoe
to make
Saldana.
changes.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they had to make changes to it, and that was one of the things they were talking about was the party scene had to be different.
Did
You know,
anybody here? Did you see that? Did
No.
everybody here see the remake?
I
No.
did not, but I actually
I haven't
heard
seen it.
for a TV miniseries, you know, it was like a
Mhm.
2-night ABC. So you got to give it a little leeway, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
for what they're working with. I heard
Well,
it was pretty
ABC
decent
ABC actually did a sequel to Rosemary's Baby.
with Patty Duke. Yes,
And it was called Whatever Happened to
I-
Rosemary's Baby. And it came out
Yep.
like 1976.
because there was a sequel. There was a book sequel as well. I
Yeah,
saw
you
that.
saw the baby grown up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he was like 10 or 11 or something like that.
Yeah.
No, in the book, he's a grown man.
Yeah, he's like 21, 22, and they're
he's-
trying to
he's
set him
a-
up to be like the anti-Messiah type.
Yeah,
But it was done for television. It wasn't done so and it was you could tell
In
it
the book,
wasn't
what's happened
Polanski.
to Rosemary?
She eventually they kidnapped the baby. She tried to get away from them in a bus, and as she was getting on this thing, you realize it was part of the covenant. As they're driving her away, they take the child back.
Right.
The child's about in the beginning, the child's about 2 or 3 years old.
Yeah. Rosemary's
in the
played
very,
by
very beginning.
Patty Duke of all people.
Yeah, and
But-
she's
but-
like screaming for the child as they're driving her away.
in
But
the,
you
in
can tell
the-
it wasn't done by Roman Polanski. This was done very much ABC movie of the week when they used to do these
Right.
movies in the 70s type deal.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave it to a prostitute to raise. And I remember that. The mother was a prostitute they gave to. And they said, well, what? And you hear the voiceover of Ruth Gordon and whoever plays the husband. I remember it distinctly. And they said, and he goes, you think it's wise to give it to a woman of ill repute? And Ruth Gordon goes, well, why not? He was raised by a virgin. You know.
Mm-hmm. She was
was
the
that
only one that
something.
returned from the original. Was the one that
Yeah.
played Ruth. Yeah.
But there's actual I don't know if this is what you were saying. I checked out for just a split second, but there's a book sequel by the original author Ira Levine.
Yep.
And what's it called? Oh God,
I think it's his name.
I think it's just whatever happened to Rosemary, whatever happened to Rosemary's Baby,
Hold on,
something
hold
like that.
on. Sequels and remakes. A remake was considered in 2008.
Because I think AMC is doing a mini series on it now, or trying to turn Rosemary's Baby into a
Okay,
series.
the book was called Son of Rosemary.
Okay.
Okay.
Was it? Okay. Hold on.
Yeah, it was written in '97 of all time.
Yeah, it's 30 years later, and she has like been in a coma all the like the coven put her down, and so she reunites with her son, who is like Sam Neill in the third Damien movie. He's being groomed for a prominent
Senator.
world leadership position.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually curious now. I'm thinking about buying those two and just reading them. Just to
Me
see
too.
what the original idea was. That would kind of be
Well,
interesting.
Polanski said he read the book, the first book, I remember seeing this in an interview. He goes, I read it on a whim. And he really liked it. That's why he wrote the script too.
Okay.
Polanski didn't direct it. He didn't just only direct it. He wrote it and did it. But he read it when he was doing another movie's work and everything else. He said, when I wanted to take myself away, I was reading the book and I realized I had to put it down, not because it was bad. It was pulling me away from the job I was doing on the set. I had to concentrate on the movie. But it was that good of a book. And when he read it, that's the first thing he said was, this should be a movie. Type deal, and what makes that movie work, in my opinion, and I agree with him, Mike. He has an interesting past that I'm not a big fan of his personal life, but this was when Polanski was shooting on all cylinders.
He's a great filmmaker,
director when he did this.
He's a great filmmaker.
Yeah,
there's no question about it. I mean, even like a lesser movie of his is still a favorite of mine, like The Ninth Gate. That's not Polanski's best work. It's a fucking phenomenal.
It's still, you can see his touch in it.
Oh,
that's yeah.
Yeah, the creep.
Yeah.
Just the creep that's in there. It's just fucking great. Or even something he did later, like The Pianist with Adrian Brody. That's a fantastic movie. Polanski's a great filmmaker.
I turned on a whole bunch of people at the movie theater who were in their 20s onto seeing Chinatown. Because they had never seen it, never heard it. And I said, serious. And these were movie buffs. And one of them was he was like a 19-year-old college student studying film. He came back and said, why did I miss this? I said, because it's been overlooked. It's from the 70s. And I said, and he goes, yeah, I know. I'm one of those guys that said, unless it's in my generation, it's not an important film.
Right.
And I said, some of these are classics for a reason. And I'm like, Chinatown. He looked at me when he saw it, and I said, my sister, my daughter, my sister, my daughter. And he's like, shut up. But he didn't know what that meant until he saw that movie.
That's Jack Nicholson, right?
Know what that means, watch it.
Yeah, Nicholson.
Okay.
Faye Dunaway.
Mm-hmm. John Huston as a dick.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. He's
and then watch You Frame Roger Rabbit afterwards, and you'll see it kind of those little tie-ins. The guy who wrote Roger Rabbit said he loosely based it on Chinatown.
Oh, wow.
The whole concept of it, but he did it in a comedic way. But instead of Chinatown, it was Toontown.
Okay.
They're on Roman Polanski. Let's get back to the movie, John. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I mean, The Ghost Rider, The Pianist, The Ninth Gate. What else?
There's a movie he did with Harrison Ford.
Frantic.
That's a great movie.
Yeah. He did Tess.
He did Tess. He did, and Frantic came right out after I think The Fugitive.
He also did a very intense
in that,
Yeah.
Oh, great film. So underrated.
He also did another movie, which is sort of about someone who's slowly going crazy, called Repulsion. Which was, again, another claustrophobic movie about a woman who sort of is going crazy inside of her apartment.
Okay.
But that's not a fun movie to watch. But, I mean, we get there and she tries to make a break for it. We've talked about it. Charles Grodin just...
What a piece of shit.
Is Charles Grodin in on it, or is he...
I think it's left ambiguous to make you think that, because... At first, I thought he was just a worried doctor because, that's why her new doctor, like, again, I'm terrible with names. Her new doctor and Cassavetes shows up because, hey, your wife's freaking out here, man. You need to come get her, type of thing.
Abe Saperstein.
Yeah. I think he might be in on it. You know what I mean? There's a little bit of me that thinks he was.
I'm sorry.
No, it's just because that's what I like about this. Like we said it already, you don't know how far their hands are in the pot. How many hands are in the pot. You don't know how far their reach is, because if they're willing, if they're willing to cause a woman to commit suicide, if they're able to make a man go blind, or somehow someone mysteriously goes into a coma and then dies days later, anything is possible.
Right.
So I'm kind of torn. I'm leaning towards he was involved because we don't know. Because if you saw when she walks into that room of the coven, there's a lot of people in there.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, and they made a specific Polanski made a specific gesture to see that there was an Asian person there with a heavy Asian accent. So is this worldwide?
Taking
You know
a
what I mean?
picture.
Exactly.
With a camera, an Asian guy with a camera.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no,
that just made me think, like,
Share.
how big is
Can
this
I-
thing really? So maybe he is involved.
Can I throw in a different possibility?
Sure.
Yeah.
Only because
Please.
it's when Rosemary, again, going back and arguing with her husband, and she said, I want to go to Dr. What's his name?
Dr. Hill.
She mentioned Dr. Hill's name, I think 2 or 3 times in that argument. When she saw Dr. Hill, when she saw Charles Grodin, and she said, I have these books, and Grodin takes the books, she goes, I don't believe in Satanists, but I believe in crazy people who think they are in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering if they threatened him, that he wasn't involved, but they just went out and threatened him.
Once she mentioned Dr. Hill
They
specifically,
went, Castavetti's told them, and they went and already talked to
Yeah.
him. Don't touch her. I mean, that's something that, again, it adds to how big of a chess game is this being played.
You know what? That's actually a good way to think about it now, because you know she does specifically mention Dr. Hill, right? So then we see her with Dr. Hill. He looks very upset when he's flipping that light switch to tell her to rest, and he says, you know, this phone call will take about a half hour. You know, his shoulders are kind of slumped, like he's like, fuck, I can't. I'm gonna have to do this. And he flips the lights, and then the 2 guys come in. So I think you're right. They got
he's looking like, you know, they have my wife. You know,
you don't know. Yeah, exactly.
You know, it could. That's what I've always wondered. I'm like, how far-reaching is this?
I think you're right. I think you're right. Now that I think about
it, he might not have been into it. He might have been just threatened.
Julia, did you want to say something about this one? I thought it sounded like you wanted to get in.
I thought I've been looking up the cast list to try and find out the names of some of the actors because I can't remember them all. There's apparently a Dr. Shand. I've got Dr. Hill, Dr. Abraham Saperstein, but here there's mentioned a Dr. Shand. I can't remember where he comes into it.
It did not a prominent role, because it was basically Saperstein and the Castevets.
Yeah,
they were basically the 3, along with Guy Cassavetes, who were, you know, the basic, you know, people maneuvering her. Anybody else was just like
possible that the doctor who betrays Rosemary to the cultists might actually be thinking he's doing good, that the poor girl's mentally ill.
True.
And he's getting her help.
You know,
but he still feels guilty because she trusts him and he's tricking her.
And this goes also with the paranoia, you know, angle. If there's nothing going on.
Cult is that we have these people, I think they're Japanese, at the party where where we get to meet the baby, and they're taking photographs of the mother. And it's like, well, it's a pretty wide-ranging cult, isn't it?
That's what I was thinking. Yeah.
Or they're just tourists in New York and said, "Oh, what's in here?"
Yeah, because you know we haven't seen that. I guess
it never occurred to me that we've been talking about Rosemary's powerlessness all the way through this movie, but at the end, she's really got an awful lot of power. Let's say this Antichrist is capable of some kind of human emotion and sentiment. What if he feels affection for his mother? What if he loves her? What is he going to do to anybody who upsets her or pisses her off?
Remember in the argument with Guy, when she was talking about the pains and everything else, all of a sudden the pain was gone. I could feel the baby kicking.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have been responding, and I think that could have been the reason why in the crib the baby was screaming. Because at first you also had Psycho Woman shaking the crib.
Yeah.
But it could have been like, because the minute she touched the crib,
it's mom. It's mother.
It's familiar with her.
That thing that there is that bond.
Yeah.
Maybe the coven didn't think that far ahead. You know what I mean? The one thing they didn't think that far ahead on. You know what I mean?
He leads into the crib. It says, "Smite them all,"
Yeah. Everybody turns to fucking cigarette ash, and that would be okay too.
Yeah.
I think that's a very hopeful, way of looking at things. I don't know that that's the way the movie ends. I think, and my understanding is that ultimately, when he comes back in the second book, she's been laid low for 30 years in a coma.
Yeah.
So that's how the coven dealt with her.
Exactly.
Because maybe eventually she just tried to rebel again, and they're just like, no, we're just gonna put her down. But hell of a movie.
Yeah.
One thing I just thought of. One thing I just thought of, because we're so into what's going to happen next. What when they're doing like the little, like, she's figuring this out, she's figuring that out, and then I completely forgot about the hidden closet. You know what I mean? They made a big deal. They made a big deal about that when they were showing the apartment. And the guy showing the apartment just having a little hissy fit type of thing. So they made a big deal. Polanski was really good at making a big deal about this closet. And then so much other shit happens. You forget about it. I totally forgot about it until the very end, when she's pulling all the towels out and she sees that it's like a secret compartment type of thing. So I thought that was a good, I don't know if misdirect is the right term.
Right, because if you remember correctly, she barricades herself in and they're already in the apartment.
Yeah.
Right.
And there is like almost one comic scene where the two old guys are trying to like step gingerly. Yeah, and I'm like, what the fuck? But then it was almost funny. But that's how they must. Well, maybe I don't know. Maybe they were already in, or I don't know. But
no, I love that because it's a nice way of saying, remember this.
Yeah,
it's like it's always like one of the best things about writing a mystery is when you put the answer right in plain sight, and then when all of a sudden they go, but you're nearsighted. Where are your glasses? And all of a sudden the whole audience goes, oh shit, because you saw them with the glasses, that type deal. So once you saw that, you were like, damn. And it's right, because all of a sudden that confirms she's not paranoid. It's happening.
As much as The Exorcist gets all the smoke, I feel that this is a movie that should be in the theaters as well.
I agree.
This movie does not get nearly enough exposure. People just don't talk about it. Obviously, the natural conclusion of the story, it's not a franchise. That's not what I'm saying. And unfortunately, The Exorcist got turned into a franchise, and that last movie was fucking ugh. But I mean,
how this do you feel about that last movie, Mike?
Well, no, but I mean, this is something that like people should be seeing for Halloween. Like this should be coming to Fathom events. This should be coming to the art house theaters, and maybe it does. But this is something that during this spooky season, people should be talking about because the whole concept of the satanic, sort of kid. Rosemary's Baby was first.
Yeah.
I think it's because it's more low key. Honestly, it's definitely more low key than the Exorcist, and it's actually more low key than The Omen. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So I think that's what it is. It gets kind of lost in the pile.
I mean, one of the things we talk about is the music. With The Omen and The Exorcist, it was very overbearing type deal. This was a piano. This was very subtle music. This
a lullaby.
A lullaby in the beginning. I mean, and I always felt like lullabies, if you put them in a different chord or a lower key, they can become creepy. That type deal. Or a music box is another really good example.
Yeah, when the music they use this effect a lot when the song starts to wind down.
Yeah.
In a horror movie. You saw that in The Conjuring, the original Conjuring movie. She's looking in the mirror.
I just saw it in The Changeling. With the music box and that.
Yeah.
But the lighthearted music for this puts you at ease as an audience member. And then all of a sudden, when the creepy stuff were happening, then you start hearing the light music, and you're like, oh shit. It took you to that paranoia level.
So, is there anything in this? I mean, we could talk about it forever, but I think is there anything? Let me not say that because that's not for me to say. Is there anything in this film that we have not discussed that people would like to address?
No, I'm pretty good, dude.
Yeah, one thing you got to make sure you listen to the dialogue because I remember seeing it the one time, the next time or a few times later when I saw it, I'm like, the dialogue. gives you everything there, and
Yeah.
it's just done in normal conversation. So you
Yeah.
can really listen to the dialogue.
This is a dialogue horror movie.
Mhm.
This is a dialogue horror movie. Go ahead, Julia.
One thing is Roman Castevet, who's really Adrian Marcata. Do you think it's a coincidence he has the same first name as the director?
Are you saying that Polanski's in the occult? It wouldn't surprise me. It's fucking
Wouldn't surprise
Polanski.
me.
He's
at all.
maybe
Yeah,
inserting
yeah.
himself into the movie in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would. I would have to at some point, and maybe sometime soon. I'm gonna see about picking up the books. And I'll read them and see if because Ira Levin would not put Polanski in there. I don't know if the name changes went that far.
Was this before for Polanski? Because Polanski was loosely involved with Charles Manson, being that the family killed Sharon Tate, who was pregnant with Polanski's child.
What year
I was wondering, was
that?
this the same
I'm gonna
time
look.
or was it before?
I'll look.
Sharon
Sharon Tate was killed in '69, so the very next year.
This is before all that. I was wondering if that played a part in his creation of the movie.
So, but I mean, who knows? Maybe his dealing, this possibility that he was involved in the occult triggered.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was just wondering if what happened to her. To deal with it. He wrote this movie. I was thinking the exact opposite.
It was,
That's
occult
all.
movies don't get. No, I'm just saying, occult movies in general don't get nearly enough.
No, they don't.
Slashers take up all the, the smoke, and vampires, and slashers and vampires. They get all the smoke. Possession movies. Sunday we've got a show coming up about the year in possession movies. But I mean, these sort of occult films, Angel Heart, and these, Lords of Salem, and maybe even Devil's Advocate. I know John's a big fan of that.
Oh, I love that one.
Yeah, it's a good one. We got to get to that sometime.
Please.
Just don't get, they don't get enough attention.
They get dismissed easily. Like go ahead, Mike.
Well, because of cult movies, the big one is Angel Heart.
Yeah.
I really think we should do something about Angel Heart because there's so much in that film.
We covered it already early on in the show, I think within the first year, but there are a couple of films that I like.
I would love to revisit.
Yeah, we can revisit that. We did. You Won't Be Alone. That was the second time I covered it.
Yeah,
I covered it with Julia from Cinema Cities. But it was like an afternoon show and nobody was in there. But it's applicable for witchcraft and it's fucking top tier. But yeah, we can get back to Angel Heart. I wouldn't have a problem with
No, absolutely. I mean, when I told you, Mike, when we covered it, I said I was actually giggling watching it. Not that
really?
I forgot how good it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hadn't seen it in a while. It was Mickey Rourke before he had the facial reconstruction.
Before he did the boxing.
Yeah.
Robert De Niro as the devil was brilliant. You want to talk about conversational acting, in that movie. But it was just a wild film.
Yeah.
The occult doesn't get a lot of respect because you have things like The Exorcist that have been beaten over and over and over again. Because I agree with you, Mike. As much as I like picking on you, it's the same thing about the scene, the movies. It's the same thing with The Omen. I mean, The Omen was a very original type scary movie, and when you heard them at the very end take the child and go to the White House, Mr. President, and that's all you had to handle it. But they're like, oh no, we'll make it into and no, you didn't need to. Or people will think it's a cult movie and they'll lob that in with Texas Chainsaw Massacre or The Hills Have Eyes, no joke intended.
Right.
You keep thinking it's a cult, not the occult.
Yeah. One of the ones I've always wanted to do, but I can never find it. I'm gonna have to buy it. Was The Devil Rides Out with Christopher Lee.
Really?
Based on
Charles Gray.
Yeah, Charles Gray. Yeah, that's a great fucking movie. The Devil Rides Out. It's about this group of friends that find it. You don't like it?
I don't like it much, but Charles Gray completely owned it. Charles Gray and the Spider.
Yeah. And they find out one of their friends has been for some time heavily involved in the occult, and they go in there. His friends go in there to try to save him.
Mhm.
It's a great movie. I have the book here somewhere. I can't remember. Here it is. Yeah, hold on. The Devil Rides Out by Dennis Wheatley. Dennis Wheatley's book, The Devil Rides Out. Great story. And Charles Gray, Christopher Lee. All right, let's get to the part in the stream where we rate the movie. This channel, excuse me, I said this film. I almost said this film. This channel has a rating system that goes from 0 to 5 up by halves. So 0, 0.5, 1, 1.5, all the way to 5. So 0, for example, would be I'd rather gargle with sour milk than watch this movie again. All the way to 5, which is this is cinema. This is the destination. This is the entire reason that I watch movies in the first place. Let's get back to our old. We're doing ladies first tonight. Let's get to Julia. Give us your rating for Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby.
This is cinema. 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5. Okay, sounds good. John, what do you got for us?
Well, besides the fact I'm never one to argue with Julia.
Smart man.
Smart.
This really is cinema. This is the reason why, and I like doing this show with Michael, besides meeting everybody, is to try to bring attention to movies like this.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a movie that people know, or I should say they think they know, because they've heard the name and everything else. So yeah, I'm giving it a 5.
Okay.
There's no debate on that at all for me.
All right. 5 out of 5. Eric, what do you got for us?
I'd be lying if I didn't give it a 5, dude. This whole theme of like your witchcraft movies so far, they've all been 5s for me. What I loved about this, again, I knew what I was getting into plot-wise, basic plot-wise. Mia Farrow, raped by the devil, pregnant with the Antichrist. I didn't know how good it was in between and after all that stuff, you know what I mean? Because there's so much happening. And what I like about this movie, like I said, and like what John said, when you have to listen to the dialogue, because on your replay, it all fits.
Yeah.
Every line. You don't realize it. And I mean, and again, a lot of people in the horror community nowadays, they know of Rosemary's Baby and they think it's just the simple thing I just said, and they're going to think it's boring because it's 1968, or they don't want to watch it because of Polanski and what he did. Well, you know what? There's going to be a lot of shit you can't watch or listen to if you hold, your standards to that. Notwithstanding, this is so good. The acting is so good. The mood, the creep factor, the visuals. Everything is great in this movie. 5 out of 5, well deserved.
And Charles Grodin.
And Charles Grodin.
I should take half a point off for that fucking bad mustache he has, but I won't.
Charles Grodin always plays a jerk anyway. So
does.
why should he be any different in this? In this fucking role. 55 years ago. 5. 5. There's no question. I would almost say that I know some people have argued that it's a little long because it's like 2 hours and 15 minutes. This is not This is not a 90-minute movie. And because it's a dialogue movie, that's a horror film without gore or spectacle. There were moments that I felt, well, this is a little stretched, but no, it's a 5. It's a 5. There are no real flaws here. It's just that I think only seeing it for the second time, you kind of forget how exclusively dialogue driven it is. So if you're looking for splashy, bloody things, or if you're looking for the devil, or it's not that. It's acting. It's acting, and that is the very best thing I think to find. And
one thing I want to say is,
yeah,
I really like. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I want to say before I forget. I also like how we didn't get to see the baby. You know what I mean? We're left in interpretation. What did you do to his eyes? Well, look, and then someone says, "Look at his feet." You know what I mean?
Mhm.
What does this thing look like? But I'm
Right.
glad that they didn't
Mm.
show it because it's up to interpretation. And perhaps if they did show what it looked like in 1968, instead of getting that holy
Oh.
shit moment, you could have
Mhm.
scoffed at it because
Yeah.
it could have looked
Yeah.
bad. So I
Even
think
by today's, if it by with today, like
Right. I remember.
it's too much of an expectation to show the
Right.
Antichrist.
right.
Right.
You know, like there's a great fucking thing in the, and this is what I loved. This is why I hated the Omen, because I'm like, that's not the Antichrist. It's some stupid fucking kid. You know, who just, he's pulling Lee
Yeah.
Remick's hair. Well, he's a fucking 5-year-old. That's what they do. You know,
Mhm.
how is that different than any other fucking 5-year-old? You know,
Right.
get him the fuck out of it. You know, kick that kid in the ass. But in the remake,
Yeah.
there were these fucking creepy vignette, these very small dream sequences that
Mhm.
Julia Stiles was having, and that Liev Schreiber
Mhm.
was having, because something inside them knew that something was wrong,
Right.
you know, and you would just get these brief glimpses of this thing,
Right.
you know, that shows you what, and it was like lurking behind like a pillar, you
Mhm.
know, and you
Right.
were like, what the fuck is that, you know? And that
Yeah.
was fantastic, but it was better not to see.
Mhm.
Don't forget, in the remake, Mia Farrow is in it too.
That's right. She's Mrs. Blaylock.
Yep.
She's
Mhm.
Mrs. Blaylock. She's the nursemaid to the.
She was good
to
in
the
that
anti-
too.
Yes, she was.
In the original VHS version of when Rosemary's Baby was released,
Hmm.
I only remember this because I was in high school and my mother actually got the VHS. That's the first time I saw it.
Okay.
And she was complaining about the cover. And I said, well, what are you talking about? She goes, it's not the poster in the movie or from the movie. And in the cover, it was a picture of the carriage and you saw a claw.
Mm.
Oh.
And she was
Yeah.
Oh, I remember
against
that.
that.
Yeah.
She hated that
That might have
because
been
she
the
said,
inspiration behind It's Alive.
yeah, yeah. And
I
that was
love
the
that film,
thing.
by the way.
She turned around and went, she goes, the original poster was just a dark crib.
Hmm.
And it was just there. And that's all it was. It was kind of a variation of what you have now, Mike. I forget what the background was. But she said, and that's what it was. She just said Rosemary's Baby. What could be wrong with that?
Hmm.
And she said when it goes, just that alone is too much. Because it puts the idea in your head of what it is.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's not.
It's not your imagination.
Yeah, and it kind of ruins it. It would kind of ruin it. Yeah, it would kind of ruin it if you just saw some like, you know, gloved, claw thing. You know, you're just like, what the hell is that? You know, just leave it alone. I had a picture of that somewhere, but I can't find it now. But yeah, I mean, Cassiovetti's is just the ultimate evil. They're all just the ultimate evil, and she is just the ultimate mouse. You know, it's like the worst game of cat and mouse that you've ever seen. They're just playing with her, they're toying with her, and in the end, she gets used up, and you know, in a limited function, brought into the fold.
Yep.
You know, in the end, she folds because that's what she's been doing the whole movie. So, hell of a fucking film. Hell of a fucking film. So 4 5s. 4 5s. Okay, I think we had 4 5s for You Won't Be Alone. I think we did. I think we all had 5s for You Won't Be Alone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Eric, plug something.
YouTube channel. Hey, Internet Eric here. What I'm doing for the month of October is discussing horror movies I've never seen. I started off with a great one, House of Dracula. That one was so good. Or Horror of Dracula, my bad. Horror of Dracula with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. I kind of hit a speed bump with that 1981's Madman, but uploaded just today, as of this recording, 1980's The Changeling with George C. Scott. Holy shit, that one was good.
Yes.
After this recording this live stream, I'm going to share my thoughts, or I'm going to re-record my thoughts. Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price.
There you go.
Oh, very nice.
And
very
then
nice.
I'm going to, after that, I'm going to record my thoughts on. It's technically the second time I've seen it, but the first time I saw it was over 10, 11 years ago, and I remember jack shit. John Carpenter's The Fog.
Oh,
So I'm
Oh,
going to discuss that one.
Mhm.
that's a great one with John Houseman in the first 5 minutes of that movie is just
Yeah.
fucking fantastic.
Yeah, just telling the ghost
to a bunch of
story.
kids.
Yep.
To a bunch of kids, yeah, it's fucking great. The Changeling had the unfortunate timing of dropping in the same year as Friday the 13th, the original,
Right.
Yep.
and The Shining.
Yep.
And so it just got drowned out in the spectacle of those two other movies. But if you ask me, it's up there with The Shining.
Yeah.
It's
That is a top tier fucking.
It's another one of those less is more because it's not, ooga booga jumping out at you stuff. It's doors opening, it's just sounds, you know what I mean?
When-
Good jump scares when that
sequence
ball
with the
comes through
wheelchair.
the window. Yeah, the wheelchair scene when it's
When-
chasing
when-
her and she falls down the stairs. It's scary
Mhm.
shit. And George C.
When I-
Scott's always good.
When Mike and I were covering this, I said it to him then. If I checked the tape, I said, "You'll never look at a red rubber ball the same way again
Yeah.
after you see that movie." And every time I see a red rubber ball with a white stripe, I'm like, "Fuck."
Yeah, there's that scene where, and it's just acting. It's not even horror. Where the ball comes toward him, and you see him flash back to the memory of his daughter
Yep.
Yeah.
playing with the ball, and then like his face contorts with the memory, and then he tries to snap back and like disguise it because he's in like the presence of someone else.
Yeah.
And he doesn't want to share that, that distress.
Yeah.
Oh man, it's so fucking good.
It's really, it's such an underrated horror movie.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that it was going to also be kind of like a murder mystery movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Trying to solve that. One of my favorite scenes is he thinks he's solved the mystery and he's still getting harassed in the house and he's just yelling upstairs, basically, what the fuck do you want from me? Exactly.
I love that line.
It's so good. I'm glad I watched it. Definite replay value.
Yeah, it was
absolutely.
George C. Scott Eaton set when he's right on the money is worth watching The Feast. Man.
Yeah.
John, you got anything?
A repeat of last week. I was talking about this before, and I want to repeat it again. On Halloween night, since we're getting saddled with the Taylor Swift movie for 3 days a week.
Congratulations.
And in case anybody wanted to know, the teenagers were fine and great. It was the middle-aged women that were like, "Oh, you're kidding me, really?" Stop dancing on the stage. But we're doing these retro films, and for Halloween night, we're doing Rocky Horror.
Okay.
We're doing that for a couple, but at 10:31 on 10:31 in the biggest theater, the 250-seat theater, we're doing Rocky Horror, and they want to hire people to be the crew, like hold up the signs, know the stuff, and everything else. And as the person put it, we can't pay you, but we can give you free passes to the movie theaters that can be used at any of the movie theaters.
Hey,
the
works for me.
Square, Stone Harbor Square, Ventnor, the IMAX. You can use them in any one of those things. And she said, I'm probably going to wind up buying pizza for everybody too.
Look at that.
She wants me actually to possibly wear a suit and tie and come out and do the historian, the narrator in the beginning type deal. And I'm like, sure, I'll be more than happy to do that.
You know,
if anybody's interested, go to harborsquare.com and send a message to Jen. Also, they actually now do, and Michael, you might get into this because I saw a live podcast done in that theater where, what were they called? Confidently Controversial was the group. Sorry for the plug. They were doing, but they interviewed a guy that was on a trauma movie from the 80s.
Oh, Jesus.
And he was on 2. He was part of the Toxic Avenger one, which is the famous. But they also did one where they really spoofed the movie. And as they put it, it wasn't blood and guts. It was chunks and liquid. They were calling it. It was a really bad horror movie. They did purposely on bad to go for jokes.
Yeah.
But the way they did it, they did the podcast or recorded it, showed the movie on the big screen, and then finished up doing the podcast and recording. And they said, hey, if anybody has a podcast and wants to use the theater, we're more than happy to do it as long as they get out before the first showing in the movie, since everything's digital. So if any of the podcast people who watch this, who might want to do a podcast live with people in the audience, harborsquare.com. Check it out.
October 31st. That's a Tuesday. Halloween falls on a Tuesday this year.
Yeah, like
Tuesday
this
night.
week we did Poltergeist this week, the original.
Oh, that's
That'd be
nice.
fun.
Yeah.
Next week is the original Halloween that we're covering for the days for
Yeah,
Taylor
that
Swift.
follows.
And then we're doing Rocky Horror, and the one in Rio Grande they're doing now is Addams Family.
Okay.
The one next week is the original A Nightmare on Elm Street,
Okay.
big screen.
That's good
And they're
Halloween
doing
movie.
Beetlejuice for the last one.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah,
type deal.
that follows.
So if
That
anybody's
follows.
in it, and they're $6, they're retro movies.
Yeah. That's good. That's good.
I'm just glad that she wants you to wear the suit, not the fishnets like Tim Curry. So
Well, yeah, they wanted me to do. They're doing a
Everybody
live
can carry
version.
off
They're doing a
fishnets.
live version of this of the Rocky Horror Show in Summers Point.
mhm.
In a 250-seat theater, and the guy who plays the professor, Professor Scott, and the Meatloaf character,
Mhm.
Eddie, he
Yep.
dropped out. And they called me up. Everybody in the cast is saying, "Get John Alvarez." I'm like, dude, I'm wearing a heart monitor now. I gotta get myself in better shape. But would you ride in with a motorcycle? And I said, if it was 2 years ago, yeah. Rode in and did Eddie, dyed my hair and the whole 9 yards, and then did Professor Scott with the fishnets, just for the hell of it.
God bless you, brother. God bless you. All right, Julia, what do you got for us?
Well, I still have my YouTube channel, still Morgan Scorpion. YouTube have started putting adverts on it without my consent, and they're not giving me a penny either, bastards. So I'm backed up at the Internet Archive, and I now have a channel on Rumble, which is basically the same stuff on my YouTube channel, which I'm gradually putting up there. So I've got that. I just received a book today, The Devil Take You, Tales of Medieval Horror. I was involved in the Kickstarter, so I'm rather thrilled with that.
Kudos.
And are you still there?
Yeah, we're here.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
frozen.
No, we're here.
Oh, thank heavens for that. I thought you'd all frozen.
Nope.
Okay, and
we're enraptured with your tongue.
We're not expressive enough for Julia.
We're enraptured with her. When she speaks, we all say, "Don't move.
Don't move. Just listen."
well, anyway, I'd also like to recommend a Spanish TV show called 30 Coins or 30 Monedas. I don't speak Spanish, so forgive my accent. Which I've seen on DVD. There's season 2 has just been released.
Has it?
Bloody brilliant. I was absolutely riveted. Binge watched it in the course of 3 days. And kind of starstruck because Cosimo Fusco, one of the actors in it, is now following me on Twitter. So, yay.
There you go. Congratulations. Question.
Anyway, I highly recommend it. It's absolutely riveting.
Can you give a brief synopsis of what it is? The show?
Basically, there's 30 coins that Judas was paid for betraying Christ. They have some kind of occult power attached to them. They're scattered throughout the world. There's a cult centered, well, I won't tell you where it's centered, but it'll be a bit of a shock. One of the highest places, which is involved in tracking them down. There's a renegade priest in a remote village. I'm not actually sure where it takes place, but some Spanish-speaking country, and so he's in on it. He's got one of the coins, and there's a married man who's a bit of a dog, lusting after the veterinary heroine.
Yes.
And then there's Cosimo Fusco turning up as the big bad guy, and you might even find a certain Lovecraftian entity turning up in it as well. But go check out the trailer on YouTube. It's incredible.
It sounds great.
It's on
really
HBO.
does. It seems great.
It's on Max. I didn't know the second season dropped. It's on Max. You can watch it if you've got HBO Max. It's on there. It's an HBO series.
Oh.
It's 30 coins. 30 coins. It's in Spanish language.
I bought the DVD off eBay. I was that intrigued by it.
Yeah,
Nice.
I might have to do that too.
Cool.
Very nice. And so, Julia, let me ask you about the Rumble. Are you going to be transferring all your content over to Rumble, or you're just like from here on out, everything is just going to be double uploaded and like the back catalog is going to remain on
triple
YouTube?
uploaded, the Internet Archive and YouTube and Rumble, because I think YouTube might be collapsing. We wait and see. But I've got a lot of friends who are content creators on YouTube. We've all noticed a big drop off in subscribers, a big drop off in people viewing. The YouTube's policy now of predatory advertising basically makes a lot of its videos unwatchable. I've now got a Spotify account. I'm no longer going to be using YouTube for music, except possibly for one or two tracks that Spotify doesn't have. So I'd like to have an established presence on Rumble. Rumble's good. I haven't had any problems with advertisers on it so far, but it doesn't have quite the huge range
No.
that
Right.
you have on YouTube.
Right.
Whereas Spotify's
YouTube has-
music, I was looking for something fairly obscure, the soundtrack for a game called Breath of Fire 4, and that was on Spotify. So it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at Spotify's music category or catalog. I mean,
No,
I'm very
extensive.
surprised. I'll look for obscure stuff, and I'm going. And yes, they do. Okay,
Yes, they do.
You
They
know?
have it. They have it. I think most people have sold those rights over, because I'm sure there's money to be made.
Yeah.
Otherwise, who the fuck is listening to obscure stuff like that? But if someone wants to dig it up and I can make a couple of bucks out of it, that's fine. But yeah, I mean, they've got a big chunk of the market share. It's hard to compete with. It's hard to compete with, and I know a lot of people that have moved over to Rumble.
Of YouTube, but they, to think of a thing as popular and as good as that, but they seem to be managing it. They really do.
Well,
the
that's
YouTube
the problem.
experience is just not very enjoyable anymore.
That's the whole problem. When you've got a vast majority of the market share, you could just make up. People feel that they could just make up the rules as they go. Because hey, where else are you going to go?
But the thing is, places like MySpace and similar will just go to show, well, actually, you can't. You can't just dictate terms.
Yeah.
Because there comes a point where people will just say enough.
We shall see. We shall see. But I agree with you. And you find out things like super chats and things like that. They take 30% of that. So if someone, you're in those big, mega, channels or, hey, somebody send me $100. Like YouTube automatically takes 30. I think Rumble takes like 3. They take like 3. It's like 3%. I remember
it's almost like an agent or manager's fee.
Yeah. But I mean, YouTube just boom. I was watching the whatever podcast, and they were just like, if you want to send us something, send it to us on Rumble, or Streamlabs or something like that, because they're like YouTube takes 30% flat. All right, for this channel, I just put up some new videos the other day. Let's see, I put up The Exorcist, Believer. And the epilogue to that catastrophe of a film, and basically saying, the video release date is underway. And I'm curious because it's basically at $86 million. So, $30 million movie, $86 million. It's just about to drop to video on demand, but they're charging a real expensive rate to watch it.
It's probably like $25 or something
it's 30.
like that.
It's 30. It's $29.99. I'm wondering if it crosses over into $100 million. Is that considered profitable? So that's
how much does it cost to make?
$30 million, but Universal paid $400 million for the rights. So they're going to have to continue. They're now forced and in a position where they're going to have to continue to make these things to try to recoup that loss. $400 million is no joke, and they gave it to a man who had butterfingers and just didn't understand what The Exorcist was supposed to be about. I mean, you had Chris McNeil, in the movie, and this is one spoiler that's just kind of universally known, so I'll just give it out. She blamed Father Karras and Father Marin for not allowing them into the exorcism in the first movie because of the patriarchy. And you're just like, what?
Yeah.
What the fuck? Like you just slapped, Maris, the two main characters of the movie in the face. So
is it fashionable to to say the real truth is because you're a silly bitch and you'd screw it up?
Yeah.
Come on. You can't trust that woman with a dog, let alone an exorcism.
Unfortunately, you didn't write that script.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. They didn't write that into the script. But I just did a video on that. Go ahead, Eric. I'm sorry.
I was going to say that's what you get when you're giving the directing job and the writing job to a guy who wrote 3 fucking Halloween movies. You know what I mean? Halloween movies have their place in horror, but there's a big fucking difference between a Halloween movie and The Exorcist. You know, don't get me wrong. I love my slashers. I love my stupid slashers. But again, there's no fucking comparison. And I think David Gordon Green just got lucky with that trilogy. I think he got lucky with a lot of the followers and a lot of people that are just so hardcore for Halloween and Michael Myers that they can't admit that a movie fucking sucks. You know what I mean?
Well, not to mention, some of the movies also went direct to Peacock.
Right.
You know, so that drove a lot of subscription to Peacock because, you know, it was COVID and, you know, all this other shit was happening and people weren't going, oh, shit, there's a new Halloween movie coming to my living room.
Yeah.
You know, with Jamie Lee Curtis. Okay, I'm going to watch that. Oh, what? Peacock was like $5.99. Oh, for $5 a month, you know, I could do that and get all. Okay, sure, I'm going to do that.
Exactly.
So, yeah, you know, you got certain things that are made to make endless stupid movies like Halloween, but The Exorcist is not one of them. And but now they're going to have to continue to make movies to make this $400 million.
You're going to have to,
so, I put that video out. I also put up a nice little clip inspired by Eric from John and I and our interaction on The Changeling. It's only like a 4-minute. It's only a 4-minute clip where we're talking about George C. Scott in the phone booth watching his family get hit.
Oh, yeah.
You know, just how fucking great that is. On Sunday, I will be here, and it looks like I'll be collaborating with a new channel, Exorcist Reviews, who basically exclusively deals with Exorcist-related material. And we're going to be talking about 2023, the year in possession movies, because there were quite a few. There were quite a few, whether it was Evil Dead Rise or Megan or Nefarious or this new one that I just saw, this fantastic Argentinian Spanish film, When Evil Lurks, which should be dropping to Shudder very soon, which is just a 5-star piece of possession film, another folk horror film, and then, of course, The Exorcist Believer. There's been, and then there was also that stupid movie Megan, which I think was sort of possession-related movie. AI, some sort of AI doll or something.
See that?
It was all right. It was all right for what it was, you know.
Well, some were. I mean, obviously, some were better than others. I saw Nefarious. I think that's a 4.5-star movie.
Okay,
4.5.
Nefarious. No, is this the British film about a home invasion, or is it a different Nefarious?
No. This is a brand new movie this year with Sean Patrick Flannery. He plays a convicted serial killer on the day of his execution, is being psychologically evaluated as to whether he stands to be competent to be executed. And on that day, he announces to this psychiatrist who comes to see him that he is possessed, that he's not possessed, that he is actually a demon. And it is fucking amazing.
That sounds like Fallen with Denzel a little bit.
A little bit, except it's basically all takes place inside one room.
Oh, okay.
It takes place all inside this interview room with the psychiatrist and a few other peripheral characters, and Sean Patrick Flannery saying that he is not the convicted killer. He's actually a demon. And it's just, it's phenomenal. Phenomenal film. So we'll be discussing the year in possession films. And then next week, whenever we can find something agreeable, I guess we're going to wrap up the month in possession films with one that I've been looking forward to cover for a long time. We're talking about the Amazon original film and the remake of the Argento film Suspiria with Tilda Swinton. With Dakota Johnson, Mia Goth, and Chloe Grace Moretz, which is just a motherfucker of a movie. I would love to have you all back for that. And
I've got it on DVD. I'll make a point of watching it.
All right then. Let's set that up. That's good. That's a fantastic film.
I'll definitely be there. You know, if it's Tilda Swinton, I will watch anything with that woman. Plus, I've never seen this, and I've never seen the original either. So,
okay, all right then.
Oh, okay.
Suspiria.
Julia was about to promote an Argento film on this channel, but then she caught herself.
Yeah, I've only seen one Argento film. It was Phenomena, and I fucking hated it. I couldn't I was so bored. Phenomena
is phenomena is an oddity.
Yeah, it's
like
Donald
it. I
Pleasance
kind
and
of
a
like
helper
it.
monkey and Bugs and Jennifer Connelly. They threw in an
I
Iron
love it,
Maiden
Fly.
soundtrack.
I love it, Fly. What's not to love? That's
So
a very intrepid, brave little fly.
that hasn't turned me off to Argento. I still will watch Argento. It's just I'm not, in a race to get to see his other work, because a lot of people say it's more the fact that his movies are pretty, they look good, but the stuff inside isn't the best.
Well,
See, I don't even think they
you
look
may,
good.
you may have a point there, but they look so pretty. I love them to bits. But if you're going to watch one, go for Profondo Rosso,
Okay,
a deep
I
red.
never saw Agents.
Argento.
I never.
No,
Oh,
as far as-
Argento. Okay.
I never
Like
saw
Agent
an
who?
Argento film. I have no idea why. Everybody talks about them. I'll catch one.
The Argento films for me are films that are attempting ambitious things, but the technology of the time doesn't allow for
Okay.
the ambition or the special effects the effect that they're trying to get across, and so it just gives me a fucking headache. Now,
Right.
you guys, I don't know if you guys know this, Julia. We have a texting group where we talk about different shit all the time, and there's a guy in there named Doug. That nobody's ever had on the show because he's only been on like 3 times. But he's a friend of mine from high school, and he's just, he's a worker. He's working all the time, so he's never around. But I remember talking to Doug about this, and he's like, "Yeah, I had the same fucking experience. It always gives me a headache.
Mm-hmm.
It just always does.
That's a shame, man.
It's I don't like necessarily like what's it, Giallo films. These sort. There are lots of. This is me. There are lots of different styles of films that I don't like. So just add one more to it. It's that's this
I
this
like
is a lesson.
Giallo style.
But Eddie Murphy vampire films.
Yeah, I don't like those either.
Right
Yeah.
up there with
Eddie
that.
Murphy full stop.
Oh, that's right. Speaking of Vampire in Brooklyn, I forgot. We're also going to be covering next week because we got a double feature because Rod wants to get in on the action. We're going to be doing a late show with Rob Zombie's Lords of Salem.
I love how we always forget about Rod and Les fucking Vampire in Brooklyn.
We're trying.
Rod pays me a check every month to say Vampire from Brooklyn, so people go, "Oh yeah, Rod, we got to get him in."
We got to get Rod. We got to get Rod in because the last time we were here with Rod, we were doing Blackula. Which was his fucking suggestion, and then he didn't remember that he suggested it. Remember that he's like, "Did I suggest this?" I'm like, "You dumb motherfucker!" Why do I even bother with you?
He was too busy, complaining about his email not working. That's what it was.
Yeah, his email doesn't. What?
Yeah, his email works fine. He just doesn't remember the password. There's a difference.
Yeah. So we got.
I can relate to that.
We got the Year in Possession movies. We got the Lords of Salem, and we got Suspiria. Tons of good content coming out next week on An American Werewolf. My thanks to Eric from Hey Internet, Eric here.
Sure, of course.
Don K. Alvarez, Rosemary's other next door neighbor, the nice one, and all the way in the UK. Yeah, well, we're saying it for you.
Okay.
We got Morgan Scorpion joining us across the pond. And the UK.
From sunny Stabistan, yes.
Yes, stay out of those protests, Julia. I don't want to see you out there like, knocking on 10 down. I don't want to see you on Downing Street.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah. So. It occurs to me, Julia.
Don't get me started on our mayor.
Okay.
I can't believe I voted for that person.
Welcome to America.
Julia, I'm going to have to make a request. That when you start coming on from now, you start using some British profanities or something like that. Some wankers or some tossers or some plonkers.
Yeah, bollocks. Yeah, that's my favorite one.
Bollocks. Yeah, that works.
Very useful word. Very useful.
Okay. All right. My thanks to everybody here talking about one of the greatest horror films of all time, Roman Polanski's Rosemary's Baby. Thank you for this conversation. These are the types of movies that I like bringing to this channel. And so, we're coming up on the end of the 3rd year in January, and we'll be going into year 4 and no slowing down yet. Yeah. So my thanks to everybody. When we get into November and December and we start to move off into Tolkien, I'll probably intersperse those with some other things, though I know Eric and I are going to I'll be looking at Mike Flanagan's The Fall of the House of Usher, and a couple of other things. So we'll be doing that too. It won't be exclusively talking. All right. Have a good night, everybody. Julia, get some rest, and I hope Minnie's feeling okay. And we'll all meet again in the next video. All right. Good night, everybody.
Cheers.
Peace out.